So this is our third session already, maybe even our fourth session already, of special sessions for Chinese speakers. We've had, if you recall, cloud apps for Chinese speakers, the new metadata editor for Chinese speakers, and now Get to Know Dara for Chinese speakers. Alicia, were there other sessions we did that I don't seem to recall? Did I cover them all?
3 in total.
Okay, so now we've got Get to Know Dara for Chinese speakers. We'll stop periodically, and Alicia will translate for us. We have with us today not only Alicia joining us from Ex Libris, but we also have with us Oren Farkas joining us all from Elazar, Israel. Thank you, Oren, for taking time out of your schedule to join us.
My pleasure.
And Alicia, I will stop and you translate what I just stated, and then we'll continue.
OK， 刚刚有要说，这大概是我们第3次针对使用中文的地区做的一个 ALMA 的说明会。那么我们今天的主要重点是会谈 Dara。那我们除了有 L 之外，我们今天还有Oren 作为我们这一次讲座的一个协同的主持人。谢谢。
Okay, is that it, Alicia?
Yes.
Okay, you used to say please, Yoel.
I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, so before we begin with Get to Know Dara, if there's any other topics the Chinese-speaking community would like us to give in Chinese, let us know, and we'll see about being able to do it. Also, before we begin, I'd like to point out a page, a fairly new page, called Education and Knowledge Webinars. And here we've listed all together in one place all of the upcoming sessions and all of the recordings. So for example, here, I can filter by product, or I can leave all products. And now I've got all products for upcoming sessions. And it's starting now November 5th because we're now November 4th. So the one we're doing is not here. These are all of the upcoming sessions. So, and here we've got one here also, it looks like, is that Chinese? Yes, Beijing time. So here you can see all of the sessions, and you can also on this page go to On Demand, and here we have all of the recordings of the previous sessions. So you got the recordings and you've got the upcoming sessions, and I'm going to send everybody now a link to that page so you have it. That's the first order of business. Second order of business is the presentation will be today is here on the center, and I'm also going to send everybody now a link to that. And we're going to start with my colleague Oren Farkas. And when Oren is done giving the overview of Dara, the theory behind Dara, the plans for Dara, I will then take over and give a live demonstration of using Dara. Alicia, go ahead, and then we'll turn it over to Oren.
OK， 我们刚刚就是先提到，就是大家如果有任何问题，欢迎用中文的方式在我们右方的聊天视窗直接跟我们询问，那我们会有人会协助做中翻英或英翻中的状况。那再来刚刚有提到的就是我们在网页上会有个 Large Webinar， 您可以透过过滤各种不同的产品，寻找你们想要参加的这种线上研讨会。那上面会有即将要展开的研讨会的讯息，也会有过去已经办过了，然后我们有把录影档放在上面。那其中也有一个栏位是会写它是用哪一种语言的方式去呈现的，所以你们可以直接在那边找到一些相关的讯息。那么等一下的会议呢，我们将会请 Oren 用投影片的方式直接做一次今天的说明，那后续会有L做线上的一个说明，做 demo。谢谢。
Okay, so Oren, I am presenting rights, so take it away.
Okay, I hope everyone can see my screen. Pleasure to be joining you all this morning or this afternoon. So I will start by giving an introduction as to what Dara is and what it's meant to do. And from there, we'll go and give some background on what it is that Dara is doing. So first of all, Dara is Alma's data analysis recommendation assistant that is meant to provide recommendations for the entire Alma universe. What Dara does is it uses all kinds of different mechanisms, artificial intelligence or machine learning, using Alma analytics, using the data that we have. And what it does is it tries to assist the different users in Alma by recommending different things, workflow efficiencies, features that could be used, configurations that can be changed. I'll stop here for you, Alicia, to translate, and then when you're done, I'll continue.
OK，所以我们等一下会在这投影片当中介绍说 Dara 是什么，还有Dara 的定义。那原则上 Dara 在我们的公司内部，它就是一个资料分析推荐的小助手。那它在使用的一些资料其实是来源是有这边上面的这3个，第一个是人工智能的部分，第二个我们运用的是机器学习的技术。那我们使用的资料有部分是来自于 Alma 的统计分析。那另外我们想要应用的情境呢，就是在协助图书馆包含我们建议您的工作流程可以怎么样去更有效率。另外就是我们会建议您使用一些 Alma 已开发的功能。最后我们可能会请您验证一下一些设定方面有没有什么需要修改的地方，这是 Alma 在做的。Oren, please.
Okay, thank you, Alicia. Basically, what we have now is the opportunity to do this because of the Alma infrastructure. So first of all, Alma is in the cloud. And so we're able to leverage that to be able to use different aspects of that in order to get information from everywhere. We have the strong Alma community, collaborative community that allows us to share things and provide insights into the way that this very varied and strong community works. And the fact that Alma has grown to a size where there are already thousands of different institutions using Alma allows us to take all that information, work with that, try and figure out what the things are that specific institutions are doing, and provide those as recommendations to other institutions that they may be able to leverage as well. Alicia?
那 Dara 其实是我们会开发 Dara 其实是善用以下这3个技术。第一个就是因为我们是在云端的环境，所以我们透过云端技术，还有它资料本身在云端的一个特性。再来就是透过我们在 Alma 里面有一些社群，那彼此可以根据特定机构在使用的功能分享给其他单位的这样子的一个能力。还有就是说Alma 现在在全球的用户数量够大的，所以我们就能够知道我们在这上面的这个平台大家都在做些什么事情。那我们会善用这样的一个技术。Oren, please.
Okay. So before I continue with more of what it is that Dara has and the different details of Dara, I'd like to start by thanking the community. What we've done in Dara is we created a focus group that allows us to basically work with the community in order to determine what it is that we should be working on, how to do it in a manner that's best suited, that gives the most value for what we're doing. So we have a focus group. We meet every month or so, month or two. And what we do is we throw out ideas to the group. We have a base camp with them where we can throw ideas to each other. The group provides us with ideas. We do that in order to make sure that we're getting the right recommendations out there. We use the group also to provide feedback on the recommendations and what the best way of implementing each recommendation would be. And the group's input has been invaluable to the recommendations that we have in place. And here we have a slide with all the different institutions that took part or are still taking part in this focus group for Dara. Alicia?
Yes. 首先我们要先感激 Dara 的一个产生，其实来自于背后有一个强大的社群，所以我们其实针对 Dara 这样子，我们其实是有创建一个焦点团体。那这个焦点团体呢，他们会一起协同去定义说 到底是怎么样子的一个建议才是图书馆最需要，而且是最可贵的。所以我们有产生一个 Basecamp 的一个环境，大家会在 Basecamp 上面进行讨论，提供建议以及一些回馈。那我们这个群组的单位也会在1到2个月都会有一次的碰面或是相关的讨论这样子。那现在画面停留这地方就是参与 Dara 的焦点团体的这些社群成员。Oren, please.
Thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about a little bit about the different types of recommendations that we have. So, like all the other features that we have in Alma, since Alma is based on an agile workflow, Dara recommendations, like every other aspect of Alma, is constantly being refined, added to. Recommendations are being added on a continuous basis, and we put here in the slides a link to the official Dara documentation so that you can all find the complete list of all the recommendations that currently exist. And I'd like to take this opportunity to say that we're always looking for more ideas. If you have something that you feel you're doing well and others don't know about, or that you feel like isn't working well in your institutions, and you think that we can provide more input, things that need a lot of prior work before you can actually get to the thing, and you think that Dara can help in providing efficiencies in the system, then we are always happy to get more ideas. The idea exchange is the place where we look for new ideas for recommendations, and we would be happy to get any additional ideas from you. Alicia?
我们这边要介绍的就是说 Dara 目前会有的建议，其实就是有部分的类型。那在Dara 其实采用的也是跟我们 Alma 其他的部分是一样的，我们是采取敏捷式开发，所以我们也希望在图书馆能够导入是一个比较敏捷的工作流程。那你可以看到这边有一个超连结的那个蓝色地方，就可以连到目前 Dara 所能做的一些建议的类型都在里面。那原则上我们也想趁这个机会跟大家鼓励，就是说如果你们在现在的图书馆里面有采取任何的工作流程，您觉得非常有效率，同时也希望分享给其他的单位，我们也欢迎大家就是能够跟我们的团队联系。那比较通常正式的管道就是像我们的 Idea Exchange 的网站，你们可以在上面提供你们的建议，那我们都会尽量去收集大家的需求。Oren, please.
Okay, thank you. So I like to split up the different recommendations into 3 basic types. First of all, there's the feature recommendations. These are recommendations that are based on other institutions using a feature that we have in Alma, based on the fact that we see that your institution is not using that feature and has the relevant parts of the system configured, or the relevant things, the relevant entities in the system that we need in order to make use of that recommendation. So this is something that will appear only once for your institution, meaning you'll get a recommendation saying, listen, we see that you have if I take the example of the upload electronic holdings, we can see that you have the relevant collections activated in your system. We see that there are other institutions that are using this feature and are happy with this feature, meaning they're using it successfully, and we offer you that opportunity to use it as well. This is something that you'll see once. You can decide either to take advantage of that feature and activate it in your institutions, or you can decide that you're not interested for whatever reason within that recommendation at that time. Because it's something that you make a decision at some point to continue with that's something that will appear once. The other types of recommendations are recommendations that occur on an ongoing basis. And here I split those into 2 different types. The first is the analytics-based recommendations. These recommendations are based on an analytics report, meaning the population, the things that we want to recommend are done based on an analytics report. And we'll talk more about those in a minute. But example for that could be missing items. There's a report in analytics under a Dara folder. We'll look at that later. And in there, the analytics report will show all the items that are missing, and then Dara will take that information and further process that to create recommendations. And the other types of ongoing recommendations are the system ones. Those are things that are based on internal Dara logic, where Dara says, okay, I see that other people are doing something, and I'm going to recommend that. That could be things like sushi harvesting, where you take the recommendations based on the fact that Dara sees that you're manually uploading sushi files and says, oh, I see that other institutions in the world are successfully harvesting sushi automatically, and then Dara can recommend that this be moved to an automated process instead of a manual one. Alicia?
OK，我们的类型 Dara 会建议的类型大致分为3种，那我们把它分为我们又可以把它分为一次性跟连续性的。一次性的就是像第一个所谓的功能的建议，我们会根据一些目前我们可能看到你有一些使用的一些实体的 entity， 这些你有用到某个部分，但是你却没有在使用某个功能的时候，我们会做建议。比如说我们有看到你有使用某一个可能某个出版社的 electronic holding， 你有启用它，但是你却没有使用这个功能的话，我们就会建议你。那在这个时候，您就可以直接决定说你可以决定说你要不要用，要用它就开启了，不用就不用，就可以放一边，这是一次性的。那连续性的话，又再分为2种类型，就是下面的这个依据统计分析的状况。我们会根据统计分析产生的报表，然后提供您相对应的建议。比如说，如果您有行踪不明的一些物件或者是书本，那我们会把它全部都可以产生给你们看，那你们再决定后续的动作是什么。那另外来讲的话，还有一些是属于系统性的，这也是会是连续性产生的。比如说，我们看到你们手动更新了一次的那个 counter 的报表，那我们会根据你这次手动更新，再提醒您说，其实有其他的单位是采取自动更新的方式，那您可以考虑看看说，你们要不要采取用 Sushi 的自动截取的功能。以上是我们这些建议的类型。Oren, please.
Okay, thank you. So here in the next few slides, we have a list of all the different recommendations. Here you can see some of the feature recommendations. And what we've tried to do throughout the initial recommendations that we've created is to provide them in various different areas within the system. So you can see that there are some recommendations that are, related to APIs, some that are related to cataloging, to import profiles, to electronic, to e-resource handling. There's a whole set of recommendations that are related to the Alma D, the Alma Digital area, and these recommendations, you can see them all in detail in the online help. There are also a bunch of different recommendations that are based on the analytics reports. We'll talk about that, about the mechanism for how that works in a second. But these also relate to different areas. They could be physical items and physical inventory handling, so that you can, for example, if I take the high request load, something that allows you to try to decide whether you want to change some kind of configuration, to purchase additional items if you see that your patrons are waiting a long time for specific books, and also things in terms of the electronic e-resource management, like Unavailable Portfolios, where we try and highlight the portfolios that exist in your collections but are not actually activated, and that may indicate that either they shouldn't be in your collections because you don't have them, or maybe should be activated so that your patrons can actually see those portfolios and take advantage of them in the system. Here there's a whole list of all the different recommendations. We'll look at some of them a little bit more in detail, and Yoel will go through some of them in his drill down into the system. Alicia?
Okay. 我们刚刚可以看到，其实我们所有的建议，不管是刚刚我们提的那3种的哪一种，其实它都可能在不同使用 Alma 的情境当中会出现。那可能都会有不同的建议。那这边就是可以说是它是一个清单。那原则上这些详细的资讯，我们都会在我们的线上手册上面有做详尽的说明。 那在除了在第一次的这种功能的建议之外，他刚刚后续有提到像统计的分析，统计的分析我们也有可能，比如说像是在比较高需求量的一些书本，那他可能也会提供建议，或者是像是我可能有一些收入的清单，我明明有这样子的一个电子资源，但是我却没有启用、没有激活它的时候，读者可能会看不到。那我们 Dara 也会提供您相对应的建议。总之，以上这些都是我们可以提供的一些建议。那后续呢，要在等一下的会议当中，可能会针对其中某几种有比较详尽的说明。Oren, please.
Thank you. So now I'd like to take a couple of minutes just to talk about the recommendations that are based on analytics. These provide different capabilities that I think are exciting and very useful for the institutions to know about. So the way it works is that the Dara recommendations that are based on analytics reports take the reports from a folder in the regular analytics area. So there's a place where we put all the reports that we provide for Dara, and that's under the Alma folder. You can see the full path here at the bottom here, the shared Alma Dara path there, and there we have all the reports which we use in order to create recommendation. When the Dara actually creates the recommendations, what it does is it copies those reports to your specific institution. So instead of using the ones that are in the shared area for the entire Alma, it goes and puts it into the shared into your institution's folders under the same shared path with the reports Dara there. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to see the reports that are running for you. It allows you to modify those reports if you would like. And we'll look at how you can modify those in a second and what that allows you to do. Alicia?
OK，那我们这边说明的就是说，如果 Dara 这一个建议本身是来自于统计分析的报表的话，那它的运作方式是什么？首先呢，跟 Dara 会产生建议相关的这些资料，我们都统一放在上面的这一个紫色圈圈后面的这一个 Share Folder， 那它所有相关的统计资料都跟这个有相关。但是我们的做法其实就是说，我们通常会在你们的环境之下放一个就是跟你们相关的一些 Dara 的统计报表。那如果 Dara 产生建议的话，你可以看到的是只有自己机构的资料。那这样的用意是在于，就是说，如果你今天看到 Dara 的这个建议本身，你对于他提供的这个建议的参数或者是条件，你想略做改变的话，您可以根据自己的需求、自己环境的需求去进行相关的改变。Oren, please.
Thank you. So the way you can easily access that is you can always go into your analytics and go to that folder that was in the previous slide. But what we try to do is to create a seamless, smooth way in which you can do that. So for every recommendation that is actually based on an analytics report, you see that you have the actions on your right-hand side, where one of them is the more info action. What that does is it provides you with two things. First of all, it provides you with information on what it is that we're doing, what we recommend, what the possible actions might be to handle it. But in addition to all the background information and the information on why we think this was a good recommendation or why the community thought it was a good recommendation, we also have the view button that you see in the more info screen. And this view button with the link out actually goes directly to the analytics area, to your OBI. And what it allows you to do is to see the report with all the information that comes from that report. If you have permissions to edit reports in analytics, meaning you have the design analytics role for your user, then you'll also be allowed to edit that report and to modify the report to show additional things. Modifying the report can actually be useful for two main reasons. The first is that it enables you to change the criteria, meaning to say, okay, I understand that the report that came out of Ex Libris, out of Alma, Dara came out with it and said, okay, I want to see everything that's been missing for at least 3 months. You might say 3 months is too long. I want to be able to see everything that's been missing, that's been missing for a month, and then be able to see more things. And so you can change the criteria for the report, and then it will affect what you're getting recommendations for. The second thing that you can do is to change the columns that you see here in the report. And what that does is, if I go back for a second to the recommendation itself, is you can see all the things that were columns in that report appear here in your recommendation. So if you think that there's additional information that you can get from that analytics report, which would be helpful for you to see at a glance when you see the recommendation itself, you can also add, remove columns, change the names, do whatever you think would make it a more efficient process for you to be able to handle those recommendations without having to do a lot of further drill down. Alicia?
OK，所以我们根据这个统计分析做的报表，他刚刚有提到，就是说，我们有2个方式可以去更改今天 Dara 会提供给我们的建议的呈现。一个当然就是直接到Analytics 的画面直接去进行修改，不过这比较不直觉，所以我通常比较建议的方式就是说，像现在画面停留的这个地方，它这是个 Dara 提供的建议。那你点选 More Info 的时候呢，Can you click on the next page, please? All right, thank you. 你点 More Info 的时候，其实它会给你2个很重要的讯息，一个就是现在这里，他说为什么我要提供给你这样子的建议，以及为什么这是我们希望你的考量，它对你有什么好处，会在这里提供。但如果你点选那个 View， can you click to the next page?
Sure thing.
Thank you. 你检视之后呢，它就会让您看到就是这个报表的全部的样貌。所以连到报表之后，如果您本身有 Design Analytics 的权限，你就可以点进去，那去进行一些修改。那进行修改其实有一些主要的目的，比如说你可以更改条件，例如说以这个行踪不明的这种单件或物件的话，你可能觉得 Dara 通常是超过3个月行踪不明，我才会提供建议给您。那你可能觉得3个月太久，你可以自己把它调成1个月，你就要显示给我看，就做建议。另外一个就是说，你可以更改栏位的显示方式。这边是 Dara 建议，觉得您必须要看到的一些栏位讯息。但是其实为了浏览方便，你可能想要有更多的讯息，或有些讯息对您而言不是太重要，您想要移除，那您可以做更改。那Oren, can you click to the previous 2 slides? The first one. The previous.
This one with the recommendation.
This is the one. Yeah, thank you. 不好意思，就是这一张。那你会看到这边其实就会显示一些单件的资讯，还有它的比如说它的所书号等等。那如果您在那报表上更改的话，这边的建议它会提供给您的讯息，其实也会相对应做更改，所以会更符合您机构的需求。All right, I'm done. Please.
Thank you. Of course, if you want, you can also get to these recommendations directly through your regular analytics links and go to the specific folder that contains all those reports, and you can look at them all and see them there as well. If you need to go back and look at the original ones, again, like we said, they're in the Alma, in the part of in the folder under the Alma, so that you can always compare. If you've made any changes, you can always compare them back to the original at any point that you want. Alicia?
Yes, 当然现在已经跟你说明了这个位置，它档案夹在哪里，所以其实就像以前的 Analytics 的使用方法一样，您可以把喜欢的报表放到您自己习惯的位置也可以。Please.
Thank you. So here I've taken it as an example the unavailable portfolios, and here you can see again that you have what we're allowing you to do is to basically tailor these recommendations to the needs of your specific institution. Here we took as an example the unavailable portfolios and said that if you want to change the criteria here, you can do so. Examples could be either like something like the dates, which we mentioned also for the physical missing items type of recommendation, or also if you think that there are things that may affect the recommendations as well. You know, for example, the material type of the portfolio or other things like that, then you can also add those to your recommendations as well, to your reports that generate those recommendations as well. Alicia?
Yes, 其实这里主要就是说，相对于各个地方，只要是从统计分析产生的 Dara 的建议，您都可以根据您的需求，不管是在无法取用的收入清单啊，或者是实体的物件这些，您都可以根据自己的单位去设计一些你们喜欢的一些建议，提供在你的系统里面。Aaron, please.
Thank you. It's important to note that that in terms of the analytics, the framework, what happens is that there's a job that runs once a week, where Dara takes those analytics reports, and based on those reports, creates the recommendations. You can see those under in your jobs, monitor jobs screens, where you'll see, generate recommendations types of jobs. What's important to note is that this job runs weekly. So once a week, the system will go through that report, take all the ones that appear in that report, and create recommendations for them. So it could be that at any given time, you may have discrepancies between what exists in the report and what exists in your recommendation screens, either because the job hasn't run yet and the specific item or specific row in the report was only added at a recent time. And what the job also does is it removes things from the recommendations if they no longer appear in the report. So for example, if you have something, I'll go back to the missing items example. If you have a missing item and Dara generated a recommendation for it, and since that run of the job, the item is actually no longer missing, then this weekly job will also make sure to remove that recommendation from Dara since Dara is able to determine that has already been handled. What I just said now actually is relevant not only for the analytics-based recommendations, but also for the ones that are the system-based ones as well. Alicia?
Hi. 所以这边我们要特别提醒的就是说 ，Dara 的建议其实是1周排成一次去进行的，所以意思就是说，我们可能会在每1周的某一个时间点去找寻，有可能我们需要产生建议的一些资料。那这个会代表就是说，如果说您可以随时来看这个我们可以监控它的这个 job 跑的程度，还有去看它的报表嘛，都是可以看。但原则上，如果您可以看一下，就是说，如果我某个人的可能他的那个身份，他是在最近才刚加进来的，或者是您某一些资料是在最近才刚加上来，是在我们可能排程还没有跑到，所以那样子的相关建议可能还不会跑出来。那又或者就是，如果你某一个，比如说像我们刚刚讲的 missing item， 如果它不见，它已经不是不见，它已经找到了，那可能在 Dara 这个现阶段还会提醒给你，可能就是因为我们这个排程作业还没有跑到。但原则上，如果说在这个时间过后它不见了之后，下一次您再看到 Dara 建议的时候，这个东西也会不见。我们会适时的因为资料的增加与减少，那 Dara 的建议会跟着一起做变化，每周1次。Aaron, please.
Okay, so I think that maybe this would be a good time to stop and see if there are any questions or comments in the chat or the Q&A section, and if not, then maybe the second part of this presentation will pass on to Yoel to see the system in live. Let's see if I can see.
Oren 的 presentation 到这边结束，等一下之后就会是Yoel。那想问看现在大家有没有什么问题想询问的？
Okay, so Alicia, I'll begin, and if there's any questions, you stop me, and I'll stop periodically, just like Oren did in any case. Thank you, Oren. That was very interesting stuff.
Thank you, Yoel.
So first of all, we'd like to begin by showing before you can even use Dara, you need to define something in a data sharing profile. So here I am in Alma. And I will close, first of all, this thing here. So we're going to go to configuration. I'm clicking configuration on the bottom left and to general. And inside general, we have the data sharing profile right here. And in order to be able to use the recommendations, you must have selected yes here under recommendations. So that's the first thing. The second thing is there are several different types of recommendations, and you can determine which of those recommendations you do want to see and which ones you do not want to see. And that also is under configuration and general. And then there's an option here, Dara recommendations. Whatever is activated will appear, and whatever is not active, if I do that, will not appear. There are currently 18, a very significant number, by the way, 18. There are currently 18 different recommendations. I'll stop here, and then we'll talk about accessing Dara. Go ahead, Alicia.
在使用 Dara 之前，我们先要做一个设定，所以在左下角的这个齿轮的部分呢，您要做的一个动作就是先点选 General， 再到 Data Sharing Profile， 然后再 would you please mute yourself while I translate?
Absolutely, absolutely. Hold on, let me find the mute. Where's the mute? Where's the mute? Recorder, participant.
Thank you， 不好意思，所以我们刚刚说你要在先设定要使用 Dara， 所以你在齿轮的部分点选 General， 再选 Data Sharing Profile， 再选 Recommendation。那下拉之下有几个选项，然后针对 Dara 的部分呢，您要勾选愿意。那接下来呢，我们刚刚有提到，其实有3种的建议，所以这3种的建议。您可以在另外一个地方，就是他刚刚说的 General Dara Recommendation 里面去选择你们要启用哪一些 Dara 的建议。我们目前总共有18种，是你现在看到的画面。那您要启用或不启用，就由这里去做选择。Yoel, please.
Okay, now accessing Dara. All of this was just an introduction to see the actual Dara. So there's 2 ways to access Dara. One way is from the Alma menu. I'm going to go back to the Alma menu. So the first way, or there's really no order, under resources, we have Dara. The second way, we'll get to that in a moment, is here on the top right, there's a arrow, a icon here. Right now it says 103. That's because there are right now 103 different recommendations which are currently available. So if I click there, it brings me these 103 recommendations. The other way to access Dara is from the admin menu. Then there's a second section, recommendations, and then we can click manage recommendations. Both ways bring me right to Dara. So here there happen to be 103, so it says 103. Other institutions like here, I've got 87. If I click here on that 87, then I get to the 87 active recommendations. There are various statuses of the recommendations. We'll talk about that in a minute. So that's accessing. Go ahead, Alicia. I'm going to mute myself. You tell them how to access, and then I'll go on.
OK， 那所以我们现在说明的是说如何开始使用 Dara。一般来讲，我们有2种方式可以连接到 Dara。首先就是在 Alma 现在这个主画面当中，你可以点选 Resource， 再点选 Alma， 或者是你可以看到右上角这边有一个 Dara 的头，那上面它右上角Dara 的头的右上角还有一个小数字，一般就是指你这个机构里面可以看到有多少个建议。现在画面停留的是87种，那他就说就代表就是有87种建议。那他说这个是有。现在已经被active 的一些建议，那我们的Dara 建议其实也有不同的一个状态，后面可能也会说到这样。那另外还有一个就是你可以从另外一个地方从 Manage Recommendation 进去，也是可以看得到Dara 的建议。现在这画面Yoel, please. Yoel, please unmute yourself first. Thank you.
Okay, so let's actually start looking at the recommendations. I think we've done enough introduction. I think we could have cut our introduction in half, actually. You don't have to translate that part. Okay, so we can take the recommendations and get the different categories. For example, if I only want recommendations about unavailable portfolios, I can click the unavailable portfolios, and now those are the only ones I see. The category for all of these is unavailable portfolios. I can also filter by only the active, which is the default. or those which are not active. We'll talk about not active at the end, what that means. Or I can do it by all. Then I can also filter by library. Not all categories are relevant for library, but those that are, I can say that I only want ones for certain libraries. For example, there's a Dara recommendation called missing items. So I can get missing items, for example, only from the architecture music library, if that's what I want to do. Go ahead, Alicia.
所以在这个画面当中，你可以看到，就是跟我们一般 Alma 的使用画面很像。你可以根据它的类型去过滤，比如说他刚刚选择的就是我无法取得的收入清单。那它的状态，那刚刚有很多种。那另外一个就是状态，状态有 active 跟没有 active 的嘛。那一般来讲，我们预设的部分是提供 active 的。建议。那另外还有一个过滤的条件，就是图书馆或分馆。比如说我们刚刚讲 missing item， 可能每一个图书馆或分馆它的一个 missing item 的讯息是不一样的。那这是使用方式。Yo-yo, please.
Thank you, Alicia. So let's begin by looking at a recommendation, which is a category called cataloging, which finds records which are duplicates according to the 035 subfield A. Now, I know the 035 subfield A might not be a very used field in Macau, in Beijing, and Hong Kong, and Taiwan, but it's showing how it works, and these can be changed also for other fields. So right now, I'm filtering by the category cataloging. And this is bringing me all records that have duplicate 035 subfield A. It says, for example, there are 7 titles with this OCLC number. So if I click that number 7, it brings me those records which may be duplicates. Now, these are not duplicates because we see this is episode 1, this is episode 3, this is episode 4. So this could be an indication that it may have the wrong 035 in it, and it would need to be cataloged. So it might be a duplicate, it might be cataloged wrong. Now, before we stop for the translation, Oren had pointed out that these recommendations are using an analytics report. So if I want to see what is the analytics report that's being used for this, I can take any recommendation that uses analytics. They don't all use analytics. But if I take this cataloging one, and I go to the more info here, one of the options in the more info is view. When I click view, it goes to Alma Analytics, and it opens the report. This is the report that brought us the duplicate OCLC numbers. And if I want this report to be different, if I say, for example, I only want ones with up to 5 duplicates, then I can go to the criteria tab of the analytics report and save and change it and say, I only want number of titles to be 10. Yesterday, someone asked on the Alma list, they didn't want them linked to the NZ, so it can be changed here. The main point is every institution can change the analytics report so that the recommendations which appear here will be different. The analytics report is what is determining which records will appear here. Go ahead, Alicia.
我们在这个范例呢，其实我们看到的，you please mute yourself. Thank you. 在那个 cataloging，就是在编目底下呢，我们这个报表其实是来自于我们来查看035段的分栏 A， 它是不是有重复的值。那我们知道，就是中港澳台，也许在这个值并不是绝对重要的判断值。不过我们想要讲的就是一个概念，就是说，你可以透过这样的方式去查询，就是目前的书里面有没有哪些编目，可能是有编目错误，或者是或者是重复的状况。那像刚刚他的那个范例，好像有7本书，其实都有相同的 OCLC number， 那他就可以点进去看看，说是什么样的状况。哦，那刚刚可能就是有不同的序列，所以其实 是还好的，这是一个概念。但无论如何，针对这样子的一个建议，你都可以点选 More Info 之后再点选 View 之后呢，直接回到当初我们产生这个报表的，我们产生这个建议的统计报表本身。那you can go to the analytics report so that I can continue translation. Thank you. 那他刚刚点选的这个 Analytic Report， 你可以看到它其实在下面这里有个 filter， 你可以根据自己机构的需求去更改说你要做的条件是什么，包含比如说他刚建议就是如果我有超过10个是相同重复的，我就想要去查看有没有问题，那你当然也可以把它改成5个等等。那这是我们的一个你要改选方式，记得他刚刚那个报表本身左下角有一个 Edit， 点选之后就可以回到这个画面。Yoel and Dom, please.
Okay, so let's do another one now because a lot of these recommendations have an action to fix the situation. So I'm going to choose here, link electronic resources to the community. This one finds electronic resources that exist in the community zone, but they're local resources. For example, a local portfolio. The first one here, for example, is verse and transmutation, a corpus of Middle English, etc. It's a standalone portfolio, but it exists in the community. So first of all, I can go to more info just to see what it does. Now, if I click the view here, it brings me right to the portfolio. And we see that it's a local portfolio. This is a sign that it's a local portfolio. When I clicked view, it did not bring me to an analytics report because this type of recommendation is not based on an analytics report. This is using inside Alma all of the data that we have. So now if I want to do something with this, I say, okay, this is a standalone portfolio. I want to link this now to the community. So I can click here, link to community. And now it starts the process for me automatically of linking this to the community. It's now looking in the community zone for verse and transmutation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's going to show me all of the different collections where this one exists. Let's just give it a little time here. I'm trying to keep talking while this is going. Alicia, why don't you talk now while we're waiting for this? Go ahead. Please, Alicia.
OK， 那我们其实看了 Dara 给我们的建议之后，其实最重要就是之下我们要有动作嘛，所以这个动作就是他刚刚要提的。那我们这次选择的范例就是有一个叫 link to portfolio 吧，不好意思，名字有点就是这个。然后呢，它其实的一个情境就是说，我可能在你的环境里面有看到某一个单独自己存在的本地电子资源，但是其实这样子的类似的资源在我们的 community zone 里面其实是有资料的，所以我们就会觉得说，也许你可以试着看看要不要把它连接到 community zone。那所以我们这边的做法跟刚刚很像，你看到这个建议之后，你点选 view， 点选 view 之后呢，你会看到为什么我们建议它，但是这次你没有办法看到所谓的 analytics， 原因是因为这并不是基于 analytics 而产生的建议，这个其实是基于 Alma 自己本身有的资料而去产生的建议。那你看到那个小房子就代表说它其实是本地的嘛，那我们希望它能够连到 community zone， 会加强你未来的管理。所以呢，你点选之后，像刚刚有停的这个动作，你知道我们搜寻 community 这种时间会比较久，所以像现在它已经查询出来，就是说你现在的这一个 portfolio 在哪一些 collection 里面有。Yoel, please.
Okay, so now Alma is telling me that this portfolio exists in 27 different collections, and I can choose which one. For example, this one here, verse and transmutation, it exists in Bacon, Brill, Global, Knowledge, Unattached Pilot Collection, Open Research Library. It exists in all of these different collections. If I decide that I want, for example, to link it to this one in the community, I'll select that one, click Next. It's now using a wizard to automatically guide me through the process to link this to the community. Let's give it a moment here. I apologize on the time it's taking.
I'll do a translation now.
No,
You continue.
Okay, now a link to the community. So it's going to be linked to that collection. I say link to the community. Now it's linking it. And there we go. So now this portfolio, verse has been linked to the community, to the DOAB directory, open access books, etc. And I can, this was a good recommendation. I can send a message to Ex Libris because we go through these comments, if it was good, if it was bad, and what kind of information they want to share with us. If now I come and I were to look for that portfolio, it would now I would see that it's no longer a local portfolio and it's linked to the community. Here it is, same portfolio, and now I have a sign that it's linked to the community. Alicia, please.
OK， 所以刚刚我们会看到，它其实我们在找寻这一本 portfolio 的时候，我们会发觉它其实在我们的 community zone 里面有27个 collection 都拥有这一个 portfolio。所以接下来的动作就需要请你们去寻找哪一个是最适合你们的 collection。点选之后呢，就按下 next， 就是会有我们常见的1、2、3、4、5的那个几个标示。所以点选了 next 之后呢，下一个动作就是link to portfolio。link 完之后呢，我们的 Dara 就会跳出来。那其实 Dara 现在正在学习的阶段，所以如果可以的话，我们也希望你们能够给他评个分，觉得好的话就给他好一点分数，那也可以给他一些回馈。那后续这样 Dara 可能就会更加的进步。那给完分submit 之后呢，你再回到刚刚有在测试一下这本期刊，你就会不是期刊，不一定是期刊，就是那个portfolio 之后呢，你会看到它原本的那个小房子的记号已经变成了连接到 community zone 的那个双人的记号，这样。please. You are muted.
You hear me now? Okay. So another type of recommendation is called high request load. This one also works on an analytics report, and it looks for all of those items it looks when was it last ordered, how many requests were there in the last year. So this item, for example, had 14 requests in the last year, and there are 11 items. And it took on average 44 days for someone to get the item. Here's another one. It had 6 requests in the last year. There's only 1 item, and it took 23 days to order. So the idea here is it's an item that takes a long time to get for the patron to get, and perhaps the institution should order another one. If I go to the more info here, it will link me directly. I've got an explanation of what this does. And then if I go to the view, it brings me the report. Now, everything here, I'm going to come back here, back. Everything in here, all of these columns are columns from the report. There's 4 different columns here, number of orders, number of requests, number of items, average number of days. Those are columns in the report. This is the actual report, and you can see we have number of requests, average number of days, number of orders, and number of items. Just like all of the other analytics reports, this can be edited, and I might want to say I only want items with more than a certain amount of requests. And then I can change it. I can also change the name of the columns, and it will appear differently than in Alma. Go ahead, Alicia, and then I'll continue with the high requests. Go ahead.
那我们现在展示的这个建议呢，是针对高需求量的书本。我们先翻译成书本这样子。那它的一个做法就是，它会去我们的统计分析报表会去查核所有的 item 里面呢，有多少本在去年被申请了多少件，然后买了几次这样的一个讯息。那针对比较高需求量的，我们就会放在这里。那其实你可以看到它上面的一些 建议啊，其实它就会告诉你说它可能有几本啊，然后被申请几次啊，然后我们的读者平均等待时间要几天等等这样的讯息，这些都是我们定义的高需求量。那如果说你点选 View 之后，我们刚刚做了很多次，我们点选了 View 之后呢，我们可以再继续的点到我们的统计分析报表里面。那根据统计分析报表呢，你可以去更改它的栏位，以更改像现在这个画面，你可以看到它那个粗体者中间这些字都是我们预设会提供给您的一些重要讯息。但是如果您觉得我机构要看的重要讯息是不一样的，那你们也可以根据自己的需求去更改中间现在这个算是查询建议的这个数字里面，你们想要把它改成是哪一些栏位的值，这样。Yoel, please.
Okay, and if I wanted to do something with one of these, like order another one, I could go to the more info, implement. That brings me to whatever has a lot of requests. And then from here, I could start the order process. So that would be the implementation of it. Go ahead, Alicia.
那我们刚刚提到，就是 Dara 给了建议之后，最重要的是管员决定如何去执行，去参考这样的建议去执行它。所以刚刚讲的执行面，比如说以高需求量来讲的话，我们可能目前刚刚看到的是只有1本的书本，所以我们当然有可能的一个做法就是我去再多订1本。所以刚刚他点选了 More Info， 在 Implement 之后呢，它可以直接带您到它的采购的画面。那你直接点选 Order 之后，你就可以进行采购了。所以是整个是很一连串的一个动作。Yoel, please.
Okay, the last type of recommendation we want to show, we're almost at the end, is unavailable portfolios. Now, these are portfolios which the institution began the activation process, but they're not active. A lot of institutions have portfolios in their system that are not active. And that's too bad because they don't get published, end users can't use them, and the institution may have actually purchased them. For example, here we have a collection of 162 portfolios. 1 is not available. Here we have 17 in the collection. 3 are not available. So here, there's several ways I can deal with this one. If we come here to the more info, and again, I do implement, it will bring me automatically to the electronic service editor for these unavailable portfolios. And then I can select them and activate them. Here we have the activate. So it automatically brings me to the electronic service editor, filtering by the non-available portfolios so that automatically I can activate them. This is an extremely useful one because it ensures that the institutions don't have portfolios that no one else can use. I'm going to do one more time. Here we have 1 out of 149. It's not active. If I don't know what that is, I can implement it automatically. It brings me to the electronic service editor, and from here, I can automatically activate it. Please, Alicia.
我们这边建议的就是针对我们有一些收入清单，它目前是显示无法使用的。那不管是任何原因忘了启用或是什么原因，那可能这些在各个机构都多多少少有一些。所以呢，这样子其实是不太好的，因为你明明买了这个资源，但是没有启用，我们就无法把它 publish 到前端，也就是说，我们的使用者可能是无法知道其实图书馆拥有这样的资源的。所以这个他说这个是一个超好用的一个建议。那它的使用方式也很单纯，它到这个建议里面之后呢，它自己会自动的你点选了它的那个键之后，它会自动带您到Electronic Service Editor 的那个地方，那你直接把没有启用的地方勾选起来，再按启用，或者是叫激活，那你就可以直接把它启用完成，所以是蛮流畅的一个流程。Yoel, please.
Okay. I know we're at the end of the time. Alicia, do you think I can get 5 more minutes?
I think so. 我们再延长5分钟好吗？ Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you for letting me go over the time. So that's just a small sampling of the many recommendations we have. Like Oren said at the beginning, if you have ideas for other recommendations, please let us know. And now I want to go over the topic of managing the recommendations. So right now I see all of the recommendations. From these three dots, which is called an ellipsis, I can remove this. I don't want to deal with this anymore. It keeps appearing here. I can just click remove, and it's gone. And then I can say why I'm removing it, anything, and it's gone. So that's removing them. I can also select one or more and remove them from here. And then they're no longer in the list. Another option here is I can add notes to it. For example, I might want to note here that I need to speak to Sally about this. Just as a note, I might have a document that I want to upload, and in that case, I can go add an attachment. In here, I can click an attachment, I can come and select the file and automatically attach it. But we're not going to do that now. Oh, let's attach attachment. Then it's in the attachment. So now I have an attachment and a note. I'm going to go back now. So now I see here, edit the notes, edit the attachments, brings me, and I see the note that I added, which I will delete. So next time I've got another example, and I've got the attachments here, which also I can delete. So I can either remove them from the list entirely by either selecting them or remove it by doing remove here, or by selecting one or more and clicking remove. And I can also add a note, and I can also add an attachment. Go ahead, Alicia.
那我们最后这边说明的就是说，针对所有的建议，你可以去做什么样的动作。原则上，你可以当然像现在的画面，你可以点选很多个，我就是不喜欢这个建议，我不需要它了，我可以把它整个移除掉。那或者是一个一个的建议本身，像你点选右边的那个3个点点，那它有几个重要的功能，比如说我可以直接移除它。那当然移除的过程当中，我们说过 Dara 是还在学习的，所以希望你们能告诉他为什么我要移除它。那另外来讲的话，就是有备注，新增备注的话，你可以自己看，也可以让别人知道哦，我已经在看这一个建议了，那别人也就会知道它的处理情境是怎么样。那再来还有就是，你也可以针对某一个建议增加附件，就是也是参考用，那都是一些可以使用或者是就是继续编辑这个建议的一些方法。有要 done?
Okay, so that brings us to the end of the session. We thank you very much for allowing us to do this. Alicia, thank you very much for your translations. And Alicia, please tell the crowd that if they have any suggestions for future webinars about other topics doing within this framework, translating to Chinese, we would be more than happy to accommodate when possible and do another webinar. This is recorded. I'll send out a link to the recording later today.
非常谢谢大家今天参加我们这次的线上研讨会。那不管大家对于我们这次的主题或是未来主题有任何的建议或意见，那或者是对于我们这些讲者有什么样的想法，也都欢迎随时跟我们说。我们都很希望能够配合大家的一些需求，未来能够做比较好的 webinar。那另外来讲，就是说，我们这一次会议的录影档案会在会后今天或明天的时候会提供给大家。那也希望大家有建议，就是跟你们的 Exibris 或爱丽贝斯相关的人员或者是代理商这边做联系。那谢谢大家。Yoel, thank you. You're muted again.
Is there a question, Alicia?
请问大家有任何的问题吗？I don't think so.
Okay, I did get a question here, and it's in Chinese. So I'm going to send it to you, or Alicia. Or
Okay.
I'll just put it on the screen, and you tell me what it says. So hold on a minute. I will share again. We'll still open it up here. Okay, and I'll share. So hold on, please. Share. Okay, here's the question.
I need you to zoom in the phone. It's a little bit small for me. Thank you. They are asking if they have make an IZEC portfolio to CZEC. Will the bid record become a CZEC bid record?
I didn't understand what you said.
I assume that for the portfolio, they will have the bid record itself. So they want to know if this portfolio bid record will also be attributed
That's a very nice question. During the process, I went fast because we're caught on time. But while doing this, it asks, do you want to use bibliographic information from your local record or from the community? Let's do it again, just so everyone can see, because that question is, there's two options. We're out of time here. It asks along the way, do you want to use bibliographic information from your local record or from the community? So you can do it that way. Did you understand?
I think I did. I'll try to explain in Chinese. 他说在这个我们执行的过程当中，他应该会有个选项问你说，我要用 CZEC 的书目还是用 local 本地的书目这样。我不知道是谁问的，如果您觉得这有回答到您的问题的话，麻烦您在 chat 的部分再回复给我们好吗？谢谢。Yo-Yo, you are still muted.
Okay, right here, this is the answer. While linking it to the community, it asks, do I want to use my local bibliographic record, the metadata from my local record, or do I want to take the bibliographic information from the community? So this answers the question right here.
所以这是一个非常好的问题，它还真的就出现在这整个过程当中。刚刚不好意思，时间有限，所以走得比较快，没有展示这个画面。
Okay, I think next time, Alicia, first of all, I hope there will be another Chinese session like this on another topic, and I think we'll make it an hour and 15 minutes, so we won't have to rush. Maybe we'll even make it an hour and a half. But in any case, I hope there'll be another session. Thanks for your translation. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Good day.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.